Jim was cashing his first royalty check from Light My Fire when he saw a family sleeping in their minivan outside the bank. What happened next stunned 5 people and changed the entire community forever. February 14th, 1968, Bank of America on Sunset Boulevard. The check was for $53,000, the largest amount Morrison had ever seen in his life. He had just come from the studio where the Doors recorded Hello, I Love You, Love Street, and Summer's Almost Gone. It was unusually cold for Los Angeles, but none of them knew Morrison had been watching that family for 3 days. Same parking spot, same rust-colored Volkswagen minibus, same cardboard sign. Sarah Mitchell, 32, sat in the driver's seat with her 34-year-old husband Tom and their 3 children, aged 6, 4, and 2. 6 months earlier, they had lost everything: Tom's factory job, their apartment, their hopes. Sarah's children were less than 48 hours away from being taken by child services. "We were like ghosts," Sarah would later say. "People ignored us." Her daughter Emma had stopped talking. Tom had stopped trying. There was no note in the envelope of money Morrison held out the minibus window, just 8 words written on the back. "You know what to do with this." They knew. Sarah felt her hands tremble as she took the envelope. It felt heavy. When she looked inside, what she saw made no sense. $100 bills, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Her heart began to race. Tom leaned over, looked inside the envelope. His eyes widened. His mouth fell open. "Is this real?" he whispered. Sarah tried to count them, but her hands were shaking too much. Tom took the envelope and started counting the bills. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, $48,000. Sarah couldn't breathe. She had never seen so much money in her life. Tom looked at the writing on the back of the envelope. "You will know what to do with this." Sarah looked out the window. The man was gone. She didn't even know who he was. A stranger with long hair and a leather jacket. He came, gave the money, and left, without saying a word. Sarah started to cry. So did Tom. Emma woke up in the back seat. She saw her mother crying. "Mommy," she said. It was the first time she had spoken in 6 months. Sarah turned and looked at her daughter. Emma had spoken. Sarah picked up her daughter and hugged her tightly. Tom hugged them both. The 5 of them stood there in that minibus, crying, smiling, unable to believe it. Their lives had changed. A minute ago they were helpless. Now they had hope. That night, after the children were asleep, Sarah and Tom talked. How would they use this money? Their first thought was to rent an apartment. 6 months later, they could sleep in a real home for the first time. But Sarah thought of something else. She reread the writing on the back of the envelope. "You will know what to do." The man hadn't just said, "Spend it on yourselves." He said, "You will know what to do." Sarah looked at Tom. "It's not just us," she said. "Here, in Venice Beach, hundreds of families live like us, in minivans, on the streets. With this money, we can just save ourselves, or we can save others too." Tom looked at his wife. There was a light in Sarah's eyes, a light he hadn't seen in 6 months. Determination. Purpose. "What do you think?" Tom asked. Sarah said, "Let's buy a place. A small motel, a guest house, something. And open it to families like us. Free. No questions asked." Tom smiled. "A motel with $48,000? Sarah said. "We can try. That man gave me a chance. I'll give others a chance." The next day, Sarah and Tom met with a real estate agent. There was a small motel for sale near Venice Beach. 12 rooms, a small lobby, a backyard. It was old and run down, but the price was right. $45,000. Sarah and Tom looked at each other. They would only have $3,000 left. But Sarah said, We'll do it. They signed the deal. The hotel's name was Seaview Motel, but Sarah changed it. She made it Hope Haven. Over the next 3 months, Sarah and Tom worked to restore the hotel. Tom repaired the rooms, painted them, and plastered them. Sarah cleaned, organized, and bought second-hand furniture. The children helped. Emma planted flowers for the lobby. Michael carried boxes. Baby Jacob played and laughed. 6 months later, they felt like a family for the first time. In May 1968, Hope Haven opened. 12 rooms, all clean, warm, and ready. Sarah hung a sign in front of the hotel. Free shelter for families in need. No questions asked. No one came the first night. The second night, a family arrived. 4 people, 2 children. Sarah welcomed them, gave them a room, cooked them a meal. The third night, 2 more families came. A week later, there were 5 families. 2 weeks later, the hotel was full. Sarah and Tom stayed in the 12th room with their children. The other 11 rooms were given to homeless families, free of charge, no strings attached. There was only one rule: do no harm. But do you think Sarah and Tom did the right thing? $48,000 could have provided them with a secure future, a house, a car, savings. But they used all the money to help others. Do you think this was heroism or folly? If you were given that kind of money, what would you do? Families came to Hope Haven, stayed, got themselves together, and left. Some stayed a week, some 3 months. Sarah helped every family. She researched job listings, arranged interviews, helped with school registrations. Tom set up a small job board in the lobby and met with local employers. Hope Haven wasn't just a shelter. It was a community. Families supported each other, shared meals, looked after the children. No one was alone anymore. 6 months later, in November 1968, a local newspaper ran a story about Hope Haven. The reporter interviewed Sarah. "Where did this idea come from?" he asked. "Such selflessness isn't easy." Sarah smiled. "A man gave us a chance. We're giving others a chance." The reporter asked, "Who was that man?" Sarah said, "I don't know. I never learned his name, but I'll never forget him." The reporter asked, "Aren't you curious?" Sarah said, "Every day. But maybe that's what he wanted. He wanted to remain anonymous. I just want to continue his good work." After the interview was published, donations started coming in. The local community supported Hope Haven. Money, food, clothing, toys. Sarah and Tom accepted everything and shared it. In December 1968, Sarah was able to rent the building next door. 12 more rooms. Now 24 families could stay. Hope Haven was growing. 2 years passed. Summer 1970. Hundreds of families had passed through Hope Haven. Most found jobs, rented homes, stood on their own 2 feet. Some returned to say thank you. Some donated. Some volunteered. Hope Haven was no longer just a shelter. It was a movement. Sarah worked with the local city government, advising on homelessness policies. Tom was giving talks at schools. Emma was 12 years old and teaching the children at Hope Haven. Michael was 9 and explaining the hotel's rules to every new family. Jacob had grown into a healthy, happy child. Saturday morning, July 3rd, 1971. Sarah was making coffee in the kitchen. The radio was on. The news was coming in. The announcer said something. Sarah froze. Rock star Jim Morrison was found dead yesterday in Paris. He was 27 years old. The cause of death has not yet been announced. Sarah dropped the cup. It broke. Tom came running. "What's wrong?" Sarah couldn't answer. She pointed to the radio. The announcer was still talking. Morrison was known as the lead singer and frontman of The Doors. He wrote songs like "Light My Fire," "Break On Through," and "The End." Tom looked at Sarah. Jim Morrison is dead, Sarah said. Who is he? Tom asked. Sarah looked at him. That man, she said. 3 years ago. The man who gave us the money. Tom didn't understand. What? Sarah ran to the living room. She rummaged through old newspapers. She found a poster for a Doors concert from 1968. Jim Morrison was in the photo, on stage, with a microphone, long hair, leather jacket. Sarah showed the poster to Tom. That's him, she said. The man who came out of the bank. The man who gave us the envelope. It was Jim Morrison. Tom looked at the poster. The face didn't look familiar. It had been 3 years. He didn't remember exactly. But Sarah remembered. She couldn't forget that face. Those eyes. That quiet, sad look. Are you sure? Tom asked. Sarah said, I'm sure. It was him. Jim Morrison gave us $48,000, and I never got to thank him. And now he's dead. Sarah cried that day. She cried a lot. For 3 years, she had wondered about that man, who he was, why he did it. Now she knew. He was a rock star. He was the leader of one of the world's most famous bands, and he had helped Sarah and her family without expecting anything in return. That day, Sarah gathered all the families at Hope Haven. They sat in the lobby. There were 15 families at the time, Sarah told them. This building, this shelter, all of us being here, is thanks to one man's kindness, she said. That man was Jim Morrison. He was a rock star. He was famous, rich, had everything. But he helped us, strangers, the homeless, the invisible. He died yesterday, in Paris. He was 27. I never got to thank him. But you are his legacy. Each of you, every day you are here, is a continuation of his kindness. The room was silent. Some were crying. Some were praying. That evening, a memorial service was held at Hope Haven. Candles were lit. Morrison's songs were played. Light my fire, Riders on the storm, People are strange. Everyone listened. Sarah cried. Tom cried. The children cried. The families cried. A man had died, but he had saved hundreds of lives. A week later, Tom learned something. Morrison's funeral was in Paris, at the Père Lachaise cemetery. Tom wanted to go. To Paris, to say thank you. Sarah wanted to go too. But they couldn't get tickets. Paris was too far away. Too expensive. All of Hope Haven's money went to the families. There was nothing left for themselves. One day we'll go, Tom told Sarah. But they didn't go, because Hope Haven couldn't leave them. Those families couldn't leave them. Instead, at the end of July 1971, they held their own memorial service at Venice Beach. On the beach, at sunset, 100 people gathered, homeless families, former residents, volunteers, donors, everyone. Sarah spoke. Jim Morrison didn't know me. I didn't know him, but he gave life to me, to my family, to this community. He didn't just give money, he gave hope, and hope is the strongest thing. Emma, Sarah's daughter, was 12 years old now. She had said something to her mother that day. An angel saved us, she said, but angels die too. Do you think Morrison knew he was going to die? 3 years earlier, in 1968, when he gave that money. Maybe he sensed it. He was famous. He was rich. But he wasn't happy. Maybe he knew his time was short. Maybe that's why he helped. Because money couldn't save him. But it could save others. What do you think Morrison was thinking that day? Years passed. Hope Haven grew. In 1975, Sarah rented a third building. In 1980, a fourth. In 1985, Hope Haven officially became a non-profit organization. Donations increased. Volunteers multiplied. Thousands of families passed through Hope Haven. In 1990, Sarah and Tom gave an interview for a documentary. The reporter asked, "What got you started on this path?" Sarah said, The kindness of a stranger. A man who gave us $48,000 in 1968. His name was Jim Morrison. When the documentary aired, former Doors fans wrote letters to Sarah. "We didn't know Morrison did something like that," they said. "It's so like him, yet so unlike him." In 2001, Sarah was 65. Hope Haven now had 4 buildings, 48 rooms, and full-time staff. Tom had retired, but was still a volunteer. Emma was 40, a social worker, and the director of Hope Haven. Michael was 37, the financial director of Hope Haven. Jacob was 33 years old, and the care coordinator. The entire family worked for Hope Haven. Sarah said in an interview, "We are not a business. We are a family." Jim Morrison gave us a family. We give families to others. In 2011, on the 40th anniversary of Morrison's death, Sarah was 75 years old. Hope Haven was now an institution in Venice Beach. It was recognized by the city, supported by the state. Thousands of families had been saved. Sarah did something that year. 37 years later, she went to Paris for the first time. Emma, Michael, and Jacob took their mother. They went to Père Lachaise Cemetery. They found Morrison's grave, a simple stone, with only James Douglas Morrison written on it. There were flowers, letters, gifts around it. Fans came every day. Sarah stood in front of the grave. She bent down. She touched the stone. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved me. You saved my family. You saved thousands of families. And you would never have known. But now, I know. And I won't forget." Sarah died in 2018 at the age of 82. Hope Haven was still standing. 50 years had passed. For 50 years, thousands of families had found shelter, food, and hope. Emma took over as director. They hung a plaque at the entrance to Hope Haven. It read, "In memory of Jim Morrison, who gave everything and asked for nothing, and Sarah Mitchell, who turned a gift into a legacy." Today, in 2025, Hope Haven is still operating. In Los Angeles, on Venice Beach. 4 buildings, 56 rooms. Hundreds of families stay there every year. Free of charge. No questions asked. With only one rule: do no harm. The $48,000 Jim Morrison gave in 1968 changed tens of thousands of lives over 57 years. Morrison never knew this. When he died in Paris in 1971, he was 27 years old. Hope Haven was only 3 years old. Morrison never saw it grow. He never heard the thanks. But his legacy lives on. In the lights that burn every night at Hope Haven, in the doors that open every morning, in the keys given to every family. Morrison is dead, but his kindness is immortal. The 8 words Sarah wrote on the back of the envelope were true. "You will know what to do with this. You will know what to do." Sarah knew. Tom knew. And thanks to them, thousands more families knew. What hope was, what luck meant, how the kindness of a stranger could change a Daiso community forever. Jim Morrison is mostly remembered for his scandals, his addiction, his death. But he was also a poet, a thinker, a human being. And on February 14, 1968, on Valentine's Day, he was just a human being. He had money in his hand, a need in front of him. And he made a choice, the right choice. Do you think Morrison helped other people too? This story was known because Sarah spoke up. But maybe there are other people Morrison helped who just never spoke up. Maybe every time Morrison received a royalty check, he gave part of it to strangers. Maybe we just know about one. What do you think about Morrison? Just a rock star or something else?